Hi all. We are fighting a major pandemic caused by the COVID-19 virus, but all hope is not lost because the scientists and the pharmaceutical companies are leaving no stone unturned to come up with some effective vaccines which hopefully could put an end to this pandemic. And one such kind of vaccines are the mRNA vaccines. And in this video module, I'm going to talk about the expected immune response when we give mRNA vaccines to somebody. But before that, we need to see the important structural aspects of the COVID 19 or the SARS coronavirus 2, which is an enveloped virus. It belongs to the beta coronavirus family. And as you can see, the envelope of COVID 19 has got certain peplomers, and one such peplomers or protein is the spike glycoprotein. Now, guys, this kind of peplomer is very, very important because it is the spike glycoprotein which actually goes and binds to the human receptors, that is the ACE2 receptors. Now, briefly about something about the envelope of the enveloped viruses. The envelope present in the enveloped viruses is nothing but a stolen property of the host cell membrane, meaning just like the host cell membranes, the envelope of the enveloped viruses is also a phospholipid bilayer, but the virus decorates it with the help of certain proteins called as peplomers, and it is these peplomers which the virus uses to cause infection of the host cells. And in case of COVID-19, it is the S peplomer which is problematic, which initiates the infection. Then because it is the one which initiates the infection, on purpose I have chosen red color for the spike glycoprotein. Okay, this whole orange outline is the phospholipid bilayer. The red one is the spike glycoprotein, and the yellow things are another kind of protein referred to as the heme agglutinin esterase dimer, again present in the envelope. Now, the good thing about the enveloped viruses is the fact that they are very, very susceptible to surface active agents like alcohol, ether, and that explains the rationale behind the use of alcohol based sanitizers, keeping your hands clean, keeping your environmental surfaces clean, because enveloped viruses in general, they can stay in the environment for a long time. The time frame differs in case of different enveloped viruses, right? As far as COVID-19 is concerned, WHO has brought out the time durations of its stay on inanimate objects, and that is why the environmental cleaning and decontamination is so much emphasized upon, and personal cleanliness with the help of sanitizers and all is so important. So even though it's COVID-19 has caused a lot of deaths, the good news is that this virus, if we take proper precautions, this virus can be easily killed, right? So apart from the envelope, the other notable feature about the structure of COVID-19 is the fact that it's an RNA virus, and RNA is single stranded and it is positive sense. Now, positive sense RNA viruses are those whose RNA is the exact Xerox copy of the mRNA. So the RNA itself can be translated into the proteins of the virus. That is the meaning of positive sense. Then we have got these pink proteins associated with the ribonucleic acid or RNA, referred to as the ribonucleoprotein. Now, because the spike protein is the one which attaches to the host cell, specifically the ACE2 receptor of type 2 pneumocyte cells, if suppose antibodies are generated, which by the way are generated after one actually gets infection with the virus, so what will happen? These antibodies formed against the spike protein will help in preventing the infection of the cells in case of any future infection with the virus, right? And this very basic knowledge about the immune response is the basis behind the mRNA vaccines. Now, before I go into the immune response generated by the mRNA vaccines, we need to understand why mRNA vaccines. Now, guys, mRNA is nothing but the messenger RNA, which has got the secret information regarding the kind of proteins which are supposed to be synthesized, right? Now, I have taken the analogy of this very famous web series, Zindagi Gulzar Hai. Okay, so this web series has by the way, it's a very good web series to watch. It has given a definition to life, that life is beautiful, zindagi guzar hai, and which, by the way, it's true. And if suppose this question is put forward to medicos, what is life? Then a good answer is going to be life is nothing but protein. Why? Recall your central dogma. Now, DNA gives rise to mRNA, mRNA gives rise to protein. So, life is nothing but protein. So, protein is coming from mRNA. And if suppose we give that specific mRNA to somebody which is going to produce only the spike protein and not some pathogenic protein, then what will happen in the body of that individual? The immune system will recognize that spike protein which has been generated from the mRNA given in the form of the vaccine, and the antibodies are going to be formed against the spike protein because it's a foreign protein for the immune system. And these antibodies so generated will then neutralize the virus in case in case the viral infection occurs in future. Not just antibodies are going to be formed after mRNA vaccines, but we are going to develop a battery of T lymphocytes also, the T helper cells and the TC cells. How? All that we are going to discuss in this video. Now, if we want to give mRNA vaccine to somebody, there's a problem, guys. The problem is the fact that the mRNA itself is a very vulnerable molecule. Now, as I have explained that mRNA is the one which gives rise to protein, and this process of protein synthesis or translation occurs in the cytoplasm. But there's a problem, and the problem is the fact that if we give mRNA alone, it is susceptible to degradation by enzymes called as RNases. So RNase is the destroyer of this mRNA. Okay, so it will quickly go, and there's a high chance that if this mRNA is given alone, it will be attacked by RNase, and then the purpose of the vaccine will be defeated. So what exactly is is being given in the form of mRNA vaccines is that this is a phospholipid bilayer, and what do? We pack the unprotected mRNA, which, as I said, is very, very vulnerable. We give it some kind of protection in the form of phospholipid bilayer. Okay, so we surround the mRNA with the help of this phospholipid bilayer, and when this whole structure is formed like this, we call it lipid nanoparticle, or LNP, and it is nothing, and it is this LNP which is which is going to be given to the person who is getting the mRNA vaccine. So mRNA vaccine is nothing but this only, right? So let us see what will happen when mRNA vaccine is given to somebody. Now, guys, this is the lipid nanoparticle, and this is the host cell. Now, why the phospholipid bilayer was chosen as the protective shield around mRNA is that, one, it is not going to be attacked by RNases, of course, and the second reason is that this phospholipid bilayer will easily fuse with the host cell membrane, which also is a phospholipid bilayer. Okay, so this is the host cell, as you can see, surrounded with the boundary of the plasma membrane or the cell membrane. And once the vaccine is given, what will happen? The phospholipid bilayer of the LNP is going to fuse with the host cell membrane, and mRNA is going to be delivered into the interior of the host cell in the cytoplasm, precisely where we want it to be present, right? A good thing about mRNA vaccines is that it is not going to touch our nucleus. It is not going to tamper with the genes at all, right? So suppose somebody has got the mRNA vaccine, and let us see how the immune response is going to be generated. Now, whatever proteins are going to be formed from mRNA in any cell, I'm not just talking about the COVID-19 vaccine, but in general, if we talk about cells are nothing but protein factories, and they're constantly making proteins, the enzymatic proteins, the structural proteins. Right, so all these proteins which are being generated inside the cells are known as endogenous proteins. Endo means inside, genus means to generate, and protein is protein. Now, a common fate of these endogenous proteins is that they have to undergo a ruthless, a merciless process of degradation, because when these endogenous proteins are formed, they are fed into a protein cutting factory called as proteasome. I've taken the analogy of this butcher who is nothing. Imagine this butcher is nothing but the proteasome which is present in our cells, and the job of this butcher is to break down mercilessly, ruthlessly whatever proteins the cell is making, that is the endogenous proteins. So this poor chicken is the endogenous protein. This is the endogenous protein, and this is the proteasome. So do remember this fact about the endogenous proteins, that they're going to be degraded by a structure called as proteasome into smaller fragments, or the peptide fragments. Now, next, I'm going to talk about what will happen in the nucleated cells once the mRNA vaccine is delivered. Now, imagine this light yellow colored cell is a nucleated cell, and a special feature of all the nucleated cells of the body is the fact that they express a protein called as MHC1 protein on their surface, and the MHC1 is expressed on the surface not alone, but with some endogenous protein fragment which the cell would have produced. Now imagine, now carefully follow my pointer please. This is the mRNA which has come from the vaccine. This got by the process of translation, it produced the protein, or the spike protein. Now now, as I said, the destiny of this endogenous protein is that it is going to be fed into a protein cutting factory called as proteasome, which I have drawn over here in sky blue color. And then we are going to get a lot of peptides like this, which I've drawn as vertical red lines. And then we have got certain proteins called as TAP, or transport associated proteins, whose job is to carry these protein fragments which have been generated as a result of the activity of the proteasome. The job of these TAP proteins is to transport or carry these fragments into a place called as endoplasmic reticulum. Now, endoplasmic reticulum, guys, it's like the conference hall of all the proteins of the cell. All the endogenously made proteins are going to land up here, and another such endogenous protein is the MHC1. Now, let me zoom the diagram a little over here. Now, as I said, this is the endoplasmic reticulum. This is the TAP protein, which deliberately I have drawn like a lorry or a truck, emphasizing the fact that it is going to transport one of the peptide fragments, right? So it is going to offload or unload itself, and it will throw the red fragment into the endoplasmic reticulum. Now, in the endoplasmic reticulum, we have got other endogenous proteins also of the cell, and one such protein is the MHC1, which I said is produced or expressed by all the nucleated cells. Now, MHC1, as you can see, it has got a groove over here in the center. Now, there are thousands of MHC1 proteins being synthesized in the cells, and they've got different shapes of their pockets. The different shapes are going to bind with proteins of different shapes, right? So different endogenous proteins are going to bind to different MHC1 molecules. So here I have drawn one such MHC molecule, whose shape is such that it is easily going to fit one of these peptide fragments, and then this whole structure we are going to call it as the MHC1 peptide complex. And then after packing via the Golgi apparatus, this whole complex, the MHC1 peptide complex, is going to be expressed or decorated on the surface of this cell. Now, guys, because of course, this is an endogenous protein, as I said before, because this is an abnormal protein, it's a foreign protein, our immune system will do something about it. Now, one rule of immunology is that endogenous proteins, they have to be decorated on the cell surface with the help of only MHC1, and such endogenous proteins against which immune cells will come to our rescue, it is the CD8 cells, or the cytotoxic T cells. We have got thousands and thousands of TC cells in our body, right? And all of them have got their own unique receptors called as the TCR. One T cell has got thousands of T cell receptors on its surface, and all of them are exactly identical, Xerox copies of each other. Okay, but obviously I could not draw thousands of receptors, so I have just drawn one T cell receptor over here in sky blue color. And as you can see, the shape of this receptor is such that it can easily fit in itself this endogenous red fragment, right? And a special feature of TC cell or the cytotoxic T cell is that it has got CD8 molecule, its identification molecule on its surface, right? And the TC cell is going to recognize this complex with the help of this CD8 molecule. Now, the CD8 molecule is this yellow spiral thing, which, as you can see, is emerging from the TC cell like this, and it is literally impinging upon or touching the MHC1, as if it is making sure, the TC cell is making sure that this endogenous protein has actually, come loaded onto the MHC1, because the job or the destiny of CD8 cell is that it should be able to recognize MHC1. If suppose this molecule was not MHC1, then this whole complex would not have been entertained by the TC cell. Okay, so remember this basic rule in immunology, that endogenous proteins are always decorated or loaded on the surface of MHC1 molecules, and this complex of endogenous peptide and MHC1 is recognized by CD8 cells, that is the cytotoxic T lymphocytes or the TC cells. Now, what will happen? Yeah. What will happen once this TC cell is able to recognize this whole complex? This TC cell will be activated. It will undergo multiplication. Many thousands and thousands of TC cells will be formed. Some of them will become memory cells, and some will become active cells. If suppose, now imagine, if suppose any virus, any the infection by the virus occurs, infection by COVID-19 occurs, what is expected to happen is, as a result of the vaccine, we would have generated thousands of these TC cells, and the virus infected cells would have expressed viral protein on their surface with the help of MHC1, and such infected cells, which are now decorating or flaunting the viral proteins, endogenous viral proteins on their surface with the help of MHC1, they are going to be recognized by these TC cells, which we have generated as a result of the vaccine. So that's the beauty of this kind of immune response, right? And memory cells are thousands in number, and they will be reserved for future use, okay, in case of subsequent infection by the virus. So the current infection is going to be taken by the currently activated cells, and the memory cells will take care of us in case of future infections. Now, the other thing which I want you all to notice in this diagram is, some of the proteins are also going to be thrown out of this cell, okay, of course after packing in Golgi apparatus only, but for keeping for the sake of simplicity of the diagram, I have drawn the proteins being jumped out directly like this. Okay, so these are the proteins which are being thrown out by this cell, and these free proteins are going to be grabbed by those B cells of the body whose B cell receptors are such, whose B cell receptors shape is such that it is easily able to fit these spike proteins or the red proteins. So what will happen? This B cell whose receptors are recognizing or attaching these red proteins, they are going to be activated. But the B cell on activation, it becomes a plasma cell. It differentiates into a plasma cell, and the plasma cell is then going to produce the antibodies. Now, a notable point over here is that P for plasma, P for protein. Antibodies are nothing but proteins. So remember, plasma cells are nothing but protein factories. They are generating antibodies. And these antibodies, guys, these are exact copies or Xerox copies of the B cell receptors which are decorated over here. That's why I have used the same color, purple color, for these antibodies and for these receptors also. And in fact, that is what we want. We want the antibodies against the spike protein. And initially, this B cell, whose B cell receptors were able to recognize the spike protein, got activated. Now, obviously, the B cell receptors are what? The B cell receptors are nothing but a kind of antibody molecules only. There are 5 antibody isotypes, IgG, A, M, D, E, out of which two isotypes, IgM and IgD, are going to serve as the B cell receptors on the surface of B cells. All right. So this is very, very important, and that plasma cells are going to secrete the antibodies, which are exact Xerox copies of the B cell in the original event, right? And some of the this B cell, some of the B cells will multiply into, will differentiate into plasma cells, and the B cell also will multiply, and some of the multiplied cells, they will become the memory B cells, and they will come to our rescue in case of future infection. Okay, so this whole slide is about the immune response by the nucleated cells in response to the vaccine. Now, another kind of cells mention, they merit special mention because they express one more kind of MHC, that is the antigen presenting cells, that is the dendritic cells, macrophages, and B cells. Now, in this diagram, I'm going to talk about a generic way of MHC2 presentation, because MHC2 are the proteins, they are expressed on the surface of only antigen presenting cells, okay, not other cells. Now guys, antigen presenting cells being also nucleated, they also can respond to the vaccine in the exact same fashion which I spoke to you just now, meaning the generation of the spike protein after the mRNA gets translated, then the degradation of the spike protein into the proteasome, and so on and so forth, and expression on the cell surface of MHC, of APC, with the endogenous protein and the MHC1 peptide complex. Okay, but apart from MHC1, they can also express MHC2 on their surface. Now let us see what will happen in that case. Now, unlike MHC1, the job of MHC2 proteins is to load in their pockets exogenous protein. Now, exogenous protein is a protein which is not generated inside a cell. Instead, it is the protein which is grabbed from outside. For example, in this figure, as you can see, these spike proteins are going to now enter this cell. Imagine this is a macrophage or a dendritic cell, right? Now, B cells behave in a little different fashion. They are going to internalize the proteins by something called as receptor mediated endocytosis. That discussion I'm going to reserve for another video. Now, this is just a generic method to make you understand what will happen in case of APCs, which are going to express MHC2. Now, this is a spike protein, right? It is going to be internalized into a sac called as phagosome, and in the phagosome, this spike protein is going to be degraded into fragments called as peptides. Okay, so the red colored spike protein got broken down into these red peptides, right? Now let us have a look at this diagram from left to right. Now, let me zoom in a little. Now, from left to right, if we see, again, we have got the endoplasmic reticulum, which I said is a conference hall of all the endogenous proteins in the cell. Now, one such endogenous protein is MHC2. Okay, MHC2. This pink molecule is MHC2. Right? Now, imagine this endoplasmic reticulum is also having MHC1. Okay, but as per rule, it is MHC1 only which is going to lodge in its pocket the endogenous protein. Okay, endogenous protein should not go and bind with or attach to MHC2. To make sure that endogenous proteins are not going to attach to MHC2, what God has done some jugaad or some method, and that method is invariant chain. Now, invariant chain is another protein, another endogenous protein, which, like all endogenous proteins, is going to be present in the endoplasmic reticulum. And this invariant chain, this, by the way, this is a single protein, and I've drawn three colors to draw the invariant chain. Now, this invariant chain is going to attach to the MHC2 protein like this, and together we are going to call this as the invariant chain MHC2 complex. Okay, so again, what will happen? This whole complex is going to be secreted, packed in via the Golgi apparatus, and it will be secreted into a vesicle like this called as the endosome. Okay, now going from right to left, we talked about how the phagosome is going to generate the peptides of the spike protein, and once the endosome and the phagosome are going to fuse, what will happen? There are going to be certain enzymes present in the endosome. Remember, enzymes has the term enzyme has got en in its name, and endosome also has got en. So endosome has got certain enzymes which will do what, which will now break down the invariant chain into three fragments. That was the purpose behind me using three colors for drawing the invariant chain. Okay, so the invariant chain, which initially was made up of, was imagine it's made up of three proteins. The purple one, the bigger one in the middle, then the ends are flanked by the orange and the yellow proteins. Okay, now when the endosome fuses with the phagosome, what will happen, there's going to be degradation of the invariant chain into three proteins. The smaller proteins, the yellow ones and the orange ones, they are going to just forget about them. They are going to be further degraded into their own amino acids, whereas the central one, the bigger one, the purple one, is going to still remain attached to the groove or the pocket of MHC2, and this is going to be referred to as the clip protein. Okay, clip protein. Now next what will happen, next there's going to be now exchange of the clip protein with the peptide fragment present in the phagosome. Now as you can see over here, as you can see over here, this is the clip protein. Clip protein is nothing but the purple leftover fragment of the invariant chain. Then with time what will happen, the clip protein or the purple protein will leave MHC2, and the pocket of MHC2 is now going to be occupied by the red peptide fragment which was generated in the phagosome after the spike protein was phagocytosed or internalized, right? So finally this whole vesicle, this whole vesicle is now going to carry what is, it is now going to carry this pink protein which is nothing but MHC2, and it is nicely flaunting or decorating the red colored peptide fragment, and it is next going to be decorated on the surface of this APC. Right. So what we have seen so far is MHC molecules, MHC1 and MHC2 are like billboards, and their job is to decorate on the cell surface. What their job is to decorate on the cell surface, respectively, the endogenous and the exogenous proteins. That's why it's so important to understand the difference between the endogenous and exogenous proteins. Now, in case of endogenous proteins, we saw that they will be recognized. The endogenous protein and the MHC1 complex is going to be recognized by the CD8 positive cells. In contrast, over here, the MHC2 and exogenous peptide complex is going to be recognized by another kind of T cell called as the helper T cell. This is TH0 or the naive T cell. What is a naive T cell? A naive T cell is the one which has not yet met its cognate antigen. Okay, it has not yet completed its purpose of life. What is the purpose of life of all these cells? The purpose of life is to meet their specific antigen, the antigen which can bind to their receptors, so these cells can help in immune response and help the host, right? And in case of CD8 positive cells, as I mentioned that the CD8 is going to recognize MHC1. In this case, the helper T cells, the designated marker or the feature or the surface protein of the helper T cells is the CD4 protein, which I have drawn in this spiral gray colored structure. As you can see, it is emanating from the surface of the helper T cells, and it is literally impinging upon or touching the pink protein. Pink protein is nothing but MHC2, as if it is making sure that it is this protein is actually MHC2, koi aur to nahi hai. Okay, so the T helper cell is going to recognize the complex of the exogenous protein with the help of exogenous protein, which is being presented to it with the help of MHC2. So what will happen, once this recognition takes place, the naive T cell will become activated. Now guys, after any infection, we get a variety of T cells from the naive T cells. For example, the two main varieties are the TH1 cell and the TH2 cell, plus we are going to get memory cells also. Okay, memory cells also. Now it is very, very important to know about these cells, because the TH1 cells and the TH2 cells, they produce certain important molecules, certain proteins called as cytokines, which play a role in immune response. Now let us see what are those. As far as Th1 cell is concerned, it produces three important cytokines: interleukin 2, which is going to serve as the T cell growth factor. It is going to help in the multiplication of the T cells, both the helper T cells and the cytotoxic T cells. So imagine the TC cells, which we spoke about in the beginning of this video. Those T cells are going to be acted upon by this interleukin 2, and those TC cells are going to proliferate and generate a population of the the virus protein specific TC cells. Then we have got interleukin 12, which is going to do what? Which is going to further help in the generation of Th1 cells, right? And then we have got interferon gamma, which by far is the most potent activator of the macrophages are a very important kind of antigen presenting cells, and these APCs are also very very important in the generation of the virus specific helper T cells, as we just discussed. And what about Th2 cells? Th2 cells are going to generate or produce two important cytokines, interleukins 4 and 5. Interleukin 4 is nothing but the B cell growth factor. Remember 4G. Everybody wants 4G these days. So 4G should remind you of interleukin 4, and G means growth factor. So interleukin 4 is going to act on the virus specific B cells, which we mentioned a few minutes before, and that those specific B cells whose receptors are able to grab those red proteins which were being thrown out of the nucleated cell, those B cells are going to be helped in the immune response by being acted upon by interleukin 4. Interleukin 4 is going to cause multiplication or proliferation of those B cells, and interleukin 5 is going to cause transformation or differentiation of some of the B cells into what? Into the plasma cells, and plasma cells in turn will generate the antibodies against the spike protein. Of course, we are going to get a pool of the memory B cells as well. So in the end, we are going to get the virus specific TC cells, the virus specific T helper cells, and we're going to get antibodies, and the cytokines are going to play a very important role in all this. So what will happen now? Now imagine antibodies have been created as a result of the vaccine. So what will happen? If in future infection occurs by the virus will be doomed. Okay, the virus, there will be, if suppose a dialogue was happening between the virus and the antibody induced by the vaccine, the antibody will win the game, because the antibodies will immediately go and bind to the spike protein and neutralize the virus by some way or the other. For instance, there could be activation of the complement system, or there could be opsonization, or there could be something called as ADCC, antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity. Remember, just binding of the virus or any organism with the antibody is not going to end the story there. Okay, the story has to be carried forward by some method of eliminating the antigen antibody complex, be it, as I said, opsonization or complement activation or ADCC. All right, now imagine this person who has taken the vaccine now gets infected by the virus. Okay, so what will the antibody bodies be doing after a virus infection occurs? That I have spoken about in the previous slide. Now imagine some virus has managed to enter inside the cell, before the antibodies could meet the virus. In that case, what will happen? Now, because the virus has entered inside the cell, and this is a nucleated cell, and by the way, this is an infected nucleated cell including APCs. Okay, so what will happen? All the nucleated cells, including APCs, they have got the ability to form MHC1. So the viral proteins or the endogenous viral proteins are going to be then decorated on the cell surface of this infected cell, and it will be quickly recognized by the TC cells, which, by the way, are going to be in enormous number in the body thanks to the vaccine. And as far as APCs are concerned, do not forget the other mechanism by which the APCs are going to behave with the virus, that is expressing on their surface exogenous proteins of the virus with the help of MHC2. Okay, so this is about the rationale behind the mRNA vaccines. Hopefully we will be able to win over this pandemic very, very soon. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more videos. Thank you.